Don't throw it back. It's dangerous.
Dangerous? How do I look?
In Berlin, during World War II, an 8-year-old boy named Bruno runs through the streets, playing happily with his friends. When he returns home, he notices that the house is unusually busy. Furniture is being moved, the maids are working harder than usual, and preparations seem to be underway for something important. Soon, his mother Elsa and his older sister Gretel explain that their father, Ralph, has received a significant promotion. To celebrate, the family is holding a gathering that evening. When the guests arrive, Bruno's grandparents are also present. Ralph enters the room in his uniform, and everyone applauds him. His mother proudly recalls how much he loved uniforms as a child, but Ralph cuts her off, reminding her to be cautious with her words. Later that night, Bruno learns the real news. Because of his father's promotion, the family must leave Berlin and move to the countryside. Bruno is devastated. He does not want to leave his friends, but his parents reassure him that he will have the chance to make new ones. The next day, Bruno plays with his friends one last time before Elsa calls him in to say goodbye. Soon, the family leaves Berlin. From the car window, Bruno watches his friends wave farewell. His sadness is clear as they drive away from the city. Elsa notices and tries to comfort him with a hug. The family eventually arrives at their new home, a large house in the countryside near what Bruno believes is a farm. Ralph immediately departs for a meeting with his soldiers, leaving Elsa to settle the children. Gretel is excited to explore and quickly chooses her room, while Bruno lingers, unhappy about the change. From his window, Bruno sees distant buildings and figures across the fields. He assumes they're farms and imagines that children might be living there. Curious, he mentions this to his mother, but Elsa seems confused. Soon, an older man named Pavel, who works as a servant, arrives carrying vegetables. Bruno notices that Pavel is dressed in striped clothing, the same kind he thought the farmers were wearing. Bruno later brings this up with his father. Ralph explains that the people in striped clothing are not really people at all. Still confused, Bruno asks if he can play with them, but his mother firmly tells him he cannot. To prevent further curiosity, Bruno's window is soon boarded up, cutting off his view of the farm. Despite this, Bruno continues to feel restless and lonely in the new house. He longs for adventure and new friends, but is told to stay within the property. Days pass, and Bruno struggles with boredom in the countryside. He has no friends to play with, and Gretel is more interested in her dolls and, later, in the soldiers who visit their home. One afternoon, Bruno decides he wants to build a swing. He asks Lieutenant Koteler, a young officer stationed with them, for help. Koteler harshly orders Pavel, the elderly servant, to assist Bruno. Nervous and obedient, Pavel follows Bruno to the storage shed and retrieves an old tire. Bruno ties the tire to a tree branch and makes a swing in the garden. While playing, he loses his balance, falls, and scrapes his knee badly. Pavel quickly rushes to his side. Despite his frail appearance, he carefully cleans the wound and wraps it with bandages. Bruno is surprised and skeptical. He wonders how Pavel knows what to do. Quietly, Pavel reveals that he used to be a doctor before coming to work there. His eyes show sadness as he mentions this, but he does not explain further. When Elsa enters the room and sees Pavel tending to Bruno, she thanks him, though uneasily. Bruno tells her that Pavel was once a doctor, but Elsa quickly dismisses the comment and sends Pavel back to work. Soon after, Ralph informs the children that a tutor will now come to the house twice a week to teach them. The tutor, Helist, begins lessons focusing on history, current events, and the importance of loyalty to their country. Gretel eagerly accepts the lessons, but Bruno is disappointed. He prefers adventure books and stories of exploration, but Liszt insists that he focus on serious subjects. Meanwhile, Gretel starts to take an interest in Lieutenant Koteler. She decorates her room with propaganda posters and listens attentively to his conversations. Bruno notices her behavior changing, but he does not fully understand why. Bruno, however, remains restless. He begins exploring the property and discovers a small door leading out to the woods. One day, when no one is watching, he sneaks outside, following a path through the trees until he reaches a barbed wire fence. Behind the fence, he sees a boy sitting alone in striped clothing. The boy appears to be about the same age as Bruno. Curious, Bruno approaches and begins to speak to him. The boy introduces himself as Shmuel. They talk briefly before a whistle blows from inside the camp. Shmuel stands, says goodbye, and quickly returns to his work. Bruno watches him leave, intrigued by the encounter. Bruno returns home still thinking about the boy in striped clothing. The next day, he sneaks back to the fence and finds Shmuel again. They sit on opposite sides, talking through the wire. Bruno asks about Shmuel's life and why he wears the same clothes every day. Shmuel explains that the soldiers took away his regular clothes and gave him the striped uniform. Bruno does not fully understand. To him, it looks like a strange kind of game. He notices the number sewn on Shmuel's outfit and wonders if it might be part of the rules. Shmuel quietly tells him it is not a game. Their conversations become regular. Each time, Bruno brings small bits of food to share. Shmuel is always hungry and gratefully eats what Bruno gives him. The two boys realize they are the same age, and a friendship begins to form despite the fence between them. At home, Bruno remains curious about the camp. He asks Gretel about it, but she insists it is not a farm at all. She explains that the people inside are Jews, though Bruno does not fully grasp what that means. Their tutor, Thewlis, reinforces the same message, teaching that Jews are dangerous and unworthy. Gretel begins to repeat these ideas, but Bruno resists. He remembers Shmuel and cannot reconcile the lessons with the gentle boy he has met. One evening, Bruno notices thick black smoke rising from the chimneys near the camp. Disturbed, he asks about it. His father dismisses the question, saying it is nothing important. Later, Lieutenant Codler lets slip to Elsa that the smell comes from burning bodies. Horrified, Elsa confronts Ralph. Their argument grows heated as Elsa realizes the true nature of her husband's work. She is shaken, but Ralph insists that everything he does is for duty. At dinner one night, Pavel accidentally spills a glass of wine while serving. Lieutenant Codler reacts with sudden violence, dragging Pavel from the room and beating him severely. Bruno watches, shocked and upset, but powerless to help. Elsa sits in silence, her distress clear. Afterward, Bruno begins to see the world around him differently. He questions whether his father is really a good man. His friendship with Shmuel becomes even more important, offering him comfort and understanding that he cannot find at home. One day, while wandering through the house, Bruno is surprised to find Shmuel inside, polishing glasses for an event. The boy looks thinner than before, but he smiles when he sees his friend. Bruno is excited and offers him some food he had hidden in his pocket. Shmuel accepts it gratefully and begins eating. Before long, Lieutenant Codler enters the room. He notices Shmuel chewing and immediately accuses him of stealing. Shmuel tries to explain that Bruno is his friend and gave him the food. Codler turns to Bruno, demanding the truth. Terrified of the officer, Bruno denies knowing Shmuel. He insists he has never seen him before. Shmuel looks at him in shock. Codler orders Shmuel away, leaving Bruno shaken. Later in his room, Bruno breaks down crying. He feels guilty for betraying his friend, but does not know how to make it right. For several days, Shmuel does not appear at the fence. Bruno fears he may never see him again. Eventually, Shmuel returns. His right eye is bruised and swollen. Bruno immediately apologizes for lying. At first, Shmuel says nothing, but then he forgives Bruno. The boys shake hands through the wire, quietly renewing their friendship. Meanwhile, tension grows in the household. Elsa becomes increasingly distressed by life near the camp and by her husband's role in it. She tells Ralph that their children should not be raised in such a place. Ralph resists at first, but eventually agrees that Elsa will take Bruno and Gretel back to Berlin for safety. Bruno is upset when he hears this. By now, he has grown close to Shmuel and does not want to leave him behind. Bruno meets Shmuel at the fence and shares the news that his family will soon return to Berlin. Shmuel is sad, but says little. He explains that his father has gone missing inside the camp and has not returned for several days. Wanting to make up for betraying him earlier, Bruno promises to help. He suggests that before leaving, he will join Shmuel on the other side of the fence and search for his father together. Shmuel is hesitant at first, but Bruno insists. They agree to the plan. The next morning, Bruno prepares a sandwich and slips it into his satchel. He tells his mother that he is going outside to play on the swing. Elsa, unaware, allows him to go. Bruno runs to the fence, where Shmuel is waiting with an extra set of striped clothing and a cap. Bruno quickly changes, leaving his own clothes by the hole they dug beneath the wire. Now dressed like the prisoners, he squeezes under the fence and joins Shmuel inside. At first, Bruno is nervous. The camp is nothing like he imagined. The people look weak and frightened, and the ground is muddy and cold. Still, he reassures Shmuel that together they will find his father. Elsewhere, Elsa searches the house and realizes Bruno is missing. She sees the sandwich he left behind and grows alarmed. Gretel also discovers signs that he may have slipped out. Panicked, Elsa rushes to Ralph and interrupts his meeting, telling him their son cannot be found. Soldiers are ordered to search the grounds immediately. Meanwhile, inside the camp, Bruno and Shmuel move with a crowd of prisoners being marched across the yard. Rain begins to fall as they are herded toward a low concrete building. Bruno grows uneasy, but Shmuel clings to his hand, reminding him of their mission. Bruno and Shmuel are swept along with the group of prisoners. The soldiers order everyone inside a changing room and instruct them to remove their clothes for a shower. Confused but obedient, the boys undress with the others. Inside the chamber, the crowd is packed tightly together. Bruno looks around nervously, realizing the place is nothing like he expected. Shmuel takes his hand and tells him everything will be fine. The two boys stand side by side, holding on to each other. Outside, Ralph and the soldiers search frantically. They discover Bruno's neatly folded clothes near the hole under the fence. Realizing the truth, Ralph rushes into the camp, shouting his son's name. Elsa and Gretel follow, terrified. By the time Ralph reaches the building, it is too late. The doors are sealed, and gas is released into the chamber. Inside, panic spreads among the prisoners, but Bruno and Shmuel remain together, gripping each other's hands until the end. Silence follows. Outside, Elsa collapses in grief when she sees Bruno's discarded clothing. Gretel clings to her, sobbing. Ralph stands frozen, staring at the gas chamber, unable to comprehend what has happened. The story ends with the image of the striped uniforms scattered near the chamber door, a devastating reminder of innocence lost in the midst of unimaginable cruelty.